This time on PFDAuto, we're going to keep cutting up this engine bay. So in the last episode, got the crossmember cut out, but I also need to cut out a spot for the slave cylinder. So originally just going to smash it with a hammer, but I really don't think that'll look very good. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it out, try to patch it back in with a little piece of sheet metal. I've also found a new fun thing that I was unaware of. Steering arm just barely hits the engine. Luckily it's in a place I think I can just cut off. And when I mean just barely, I mean it just barely hits. So we'll take a look at that, cut out this piece for the slave cylinder, and clean up the spot for the crossmember. Go from there. So this is what I found hits the steering. If you can see, my oil pan hits right there too. I don't think I need a whole lot of room. I think once I shift the engine over where it needs to be, it's going to clean it up for the most part. But I do think I need to come in here and take this back as far as I can. I don't think that'll be too big of a deal. I might even get into the oil pan just a little bit. I've got definitely some ability to cut into it, but not a lot because that's my seal. So I want to limit how much I cut this back, but I do have to make room for it. I don't think I've got any room to grind on this piece here. It is pretty close to on that bolt. I probably could take a little bit off, but not a whole lot. What I do need to focus on today is cutting out over here. So you can see I've got a line there. That's where my slave cylinder hits. And I definitely need to chop that out. As well as clean this up and decide what I'm going to do with these guys. They are welded through the top. I think I might just be able to cut them off and take care of them that way. My only other concern, you can see the hole there, is you come into the car, you can see where that hole is. Now that is pretty close to where the original gas pedal went. There. So I have to limit the amount of room I cut into the car so my feet will still fit there also. So I'm going to make that as small as I can and just hopefully barely fit that line through. So that's where we're starting today. Wish me luck. All right, let's see if we did any damage to the inside. Doesn't look like it. That is covered in sparkles, so it did something worthwhile. Now I'm just going to finish up that cut. See if I can't just bend it in the shape that I need. Let's see. Well, I don't know, but I think I am going to leave this loose like this for right now. I'm going to clean up a little bit, but I might just make a piece on the inside that goes around this. I might finish cutting it and make a whole new piece. I haven't really decided. This will keep some of the stuff from getting inside though, so I'm going to leave it for right now. It will give me enough room that I can push on it with the slave cylinder and figure out exactly where it needs to be, make sure I cut the right hole and cut it back far enough. So that's where we're going to leave that for right this moment. Next, I think we're going to clean this up. You can see it's got a pretty hard edge here. And also, this lips up behind my seam. So I want to get rid of all of this. I do need to get rid of this and this too. I can't decide if I should just drill these out or if I should pry it up and cut them off. I think pry it up and cut them off might be the route I take. And then I'm just going to come back in with the grinder or the flat disc and just kind of clean this up a little bit. All right, well, that takes care of those pieces. Good enough for me. They're so far back up in there, I am just not going to worry about them. The guy who's doing the metal work said I should probably drill them out, but that was a lot easier, and I'm happy with it. So now, we'll clean up these edges. Hopefully, I can get that plate to set okay on here. I might have to do some more cutting. I'm not sure yet. We're going to clean this up and see where we're at. Here's my first pass with the grinder. I think it's starting to look pretty good. I'm getting pretty close to the metal that I don't want to grind away. So I'm going to get the flat disc out and hopefully be a little bit more gentle. Not sure, but I need to clean all of this up. So I'm going to keep going. So here's where we're at. I have gone through and ground this as flat as I feel comfortable without getting through it at all. I think that's looking pretty good. Again, we've got our flat cut out up here. That's going to allow me to get the transmission right, and then we'll worry about filling that hole in. And while I was at it, I came over here and I ground this down also. I got right up into the sealer that leaked out. I'm hoping that that's enough to clearance the steering arm that was hitting there. So we'll get all this cleaned up. We'll put our piece of plate down, see what it does for us as far as height. We'll set the engine back in and see where we're at. I'm really hoping it doesn't happen, but we might have to cut a little bit more from the left and the right side of the back just to bring our height down. But I'm going to try to avoid that. So I'm going to get cleaned up. We'll get the engine set back down and I'll bring you back and show you where we're at. We're back in the engine bay. As you can see, I took care of my issue here. That is not going to hit anymore. That's exactly what I was looking for. Also, I've got my gap back here and kind of my gap here set up. Also, I'm looking good on height between the pan and the cross member because there's going to be a piece of 3/8 plate in there. So this is about as low as I want it to get. I've got this mostly even level, and when I go to build the mounts, I'll make sure that oil pan is 100% level. And here you can see why I needed to cut this. To get that piece centered up, well, to get the transmission centered up, that piece needed to encroach into the car a little bit. I did not get it far enough back. I've got another piece here that needs to come through a little bit. So I'll probably have to cut it back to here or so to get that in there. And then we'll shape a piece once we get the cables hooked up and make sure that we bring it into the cabin enough. But I think we're going to be pretty good on pedal placement. So next thing is to have somebody come over and weld this up for me. Got the plate. It's actually sitting over here on the ground. So yeah, we're getting real close to being able to actually fab up some mounts. Well, I think that's going to do it for today. We've got the engine pretty much where I want it, where I can start making some mounts and we can get it in its final resting position. We've made some cuts, we've cleaned some things up, and pretty soon going to have that cross member fixed up. I've got the plate, I've got my plan, so now I just need my buddy to come over and weld it up for me. So whenever he has time for that, we'll get that taken care of. But as it sits, I've got enough clearance, I've got enough room, I can start actually pretending to make some mounts. Still going to go out of wood and prototype them and then have them machined out of aluminum. That's still the plan. So on the next episode, hopefully, we'll be getting to that. Thanks for watching PFDAuto. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next time.